Wolf Prince Stellan Crowe cut Miren Barlow's final coat apart before the same court that had once praised her for making him look unbroken. The first slice opened the black velvet from shoulder to breastbone. The second severed the silver lining she had spent 40 nights stitching by candlelight. The third exposed the pale edge of a scar above his collar, and Stellan stopped the shears before the court could see how far the wound continued beneath his ceremonial shirt. Miren stood below the coronation dais with her hands folded over the guild mark sewn into her left cuff. She was 41, old enough for the court to call her steady when it needed her hands, and invisible when it no longer did. She had served 3 coronations, buried 2 apprentices, and learned that royal gratitude lasted only until a woman's work began remembering too much. She had covered Stellan's scar for 3 years. She had covered 11 others. Not because he had ordered her to hide them, but because on the first night after his return from war, he had stood alone in the Velvet Tower and asked whether she could make cloth fall across his body without touching the places where memory still hurt. Miren had answered yes. She had not asked which commander abandoned him in the northern pass. She had not stared when he removed the blood-stiffened bandages. She had measured the uneven rise of his shoulder, the damaged turn of his ribs, and the places where his skin could no longer tolerate coarse wool. Now Queen Mother Orcella watched from the throne beneath a crown of black moonstone. "The curse thread lies within the lining," she said. "Let the court witness what the seamstress placed against the prince's body." Miren looked at the silver strands hanging from Stellan's ruined coat. "They are memory stitches." Orcella's mouth softened with practiced concern. "There is no lawful stitch by that name. There was before the War Guild burned its oldest pattern books." A guild master shifted near the dais but did not contradict her. Stellan held the torn coat away from his body. He wore black from throat to wrist beneath it, yet Miren saw the tension in the hand gripping the shears. His fingers had gone rigid in the same pattern they always did when pain traveled from the scar beneath his shoulder into his palm. Only she noticed. She had built hidden ease into every sleeve he wore. She had widened collars so he would never need to admit he could not lift his left arm without feeling the spear enter again. Orcella descended 1 step. Since wearing Miren Barlow's work, the prince has suffered fevered sleep, violent shifts, and failures of memory before the full moon. Miren turned toward Stellan. "You had those symptoms before I threaded the first needle." His eyes met hers. Once, in the locked workroom above the tower, he had allowed her to see the wounds no physician was permitted to record. He had watched her face as if waiting for disgust. She had only asked, "Which side can bear the weight of a coat?" "The right," he had said. She had cut every garment differently after that. Now there was no recognition in the way he looked at her. Only a prince standing one day from coronation, surrounded by men measuring whether his scars made him strong enough to inherit the wolf crown. Orcella had chosen her accusation well. A cursed seamstress could be removed. A damaged heir could be controlled. Stellan lowered the shears. "Did you place anything in this coat that I did not authorize?" Miren could have answered no. It would not have been entirely true. The silver lining had recorded pressure, heat, strain, and direction. Nothing kinder, nothing more. Royal seamstresses had once used memory thread to preserve wound patterns before healers closed them. Memory thread remembered contact, not truth. Truth had to be cut from what contact proved. Stellan had never asked her to preserve the injuries. He had only asked her to hide them. "I place no curse against you," she said. "That was not my question." "No, it was your mother's." The silence that followed was quieter than outrage. Stellan descended from the dais. He stopped before Miren, close enough for her to smell winter cedar on his ceremonial shirt and the bitter tonic his physicians gave him before public appearances. "Answer me." She looked at the scar showing above his collar. "The lining remembers how the coat rested against your wounds." "Why?" "Because burned records lie more easily than cloth." His expression changed by almost nothing. But Miren knew the man beneath the prince's discipline. He feared being remembered as injured more than he feared pain itself. Orcella spoke behind him. "She admits the garment carries an unauthorized imprint of his body. It carries measurements. It carries what the prince concealed from his court." Miren looked at Stellan. There it was. Not fear of a curse. Fear that her work knew he had once needed gentleness. He turned away first. "Remove her guild standing." The order did not sound triumphant. That made it hurt more. 2 guild wardens approached. One held the narrow knife used to sever false marks from counterfeit work. The other took Miren's wrist. She did not struggle. The blade entered the cuff she had embroidered at 17, when the Velvet Guild accepted her oath. Silver thread split beneath it. The crescent-shaped mark fell onto the stone between her and Stellan. Without it, Miren could not purchase royal cloth, accept lawful commissions, train apprentices, or sign her name beneath finished work. Orcella had not merely removed her from court. She had made her hands illegal. The warden offered Stellan the severed mark. He did not take it. "Cast her out before moonrise," he said. Miren bent and lifted the ruined crescent herself. "No." "Je." The guards tightened around her. Stellan turned. She held the guild mark in her palm. "You may close the gate. You may forbid my work. But you will not leave this on the floor as if the years inside it belonged to you." For one breath, the prince she had known returned to his face. Then Orcella said, "Take her to the Velvet Tower until the exile bell." The abandoned upper workrooms waited above the western wall, filled with covered looms and dust-heavy curtains. Miren was locked inside the chamber where she had once made Stellan's first scar coat. Moonlight entered through a cracked window. She placed the severed guild mark on the cutting table and examined the silver threads caught inside it. One strand tightened. A spider no larger than a pearl descended from the ceiling on a filament of white light. Its polished silver legs touched the severed lining without breaking it. Another appeared along the window frame, then 3 more beneath the old loom. Moon spiders did not come for innocence. They came for thread-carrying wound patterns that old guild law had forbidden cloth to forget. They did not choose Miren. They followed the strain map trapped inside the silver lining. The first spider drew one thread across her sleeve. A bright line appeared in the dark fabric. Then a second crossed it at a precise angle. Miren recognized the shape. It matched the wound beneath Stellan's left shoulder. The wound had entered from behind while he faced north. A second spider completed only the nearest formation line before becoming still. The map did not show accusation. It showed absence. The enemy had not stood where the scar began. The spiders marked an empty shield line behind Stellan's left shoulder, the place Queen Mother Orcella's soldiers had sworn to hold. Stellan had cut apart the only garment that still knew where betrayal had stood. The spiders had not defended Miren. They had made the cloth finish remembering. Below the Velvet Tower, the exile bell was being raised into its iron frame. Miren heard the ropes scrape against stone, while the moon spiders completed the first shield line across her severed sleeve. They added no faces, no names, no explanation. One silver line showed the direction Stellan had faced. Another showed the pressure that had entered beneath his left shoulder. The space behind him remained empty. A guild warden unlocked the tower door and entered with 2 guards. "You are to surrender all royal thread before the bell." His attention fell on Miren's sleeve. The silver map brightened when moonlight crossed it. One guard stepped back. "What has she done?" "Nothing since you locked me here," Miren said. The warden moved toward the sleeve. "Do not touch it. You no longer possess guild authority." "No. But you still possess fingers and memory. Thread will record their pressure if you disturb the line." He stopped. The spiders remained above the cloth, waiting where the strain map ended. They were not guarding Miren. They had simply reached the limit of what the severed lining could prove. The warden looked toward the stairwell. "Report this to the Queen, Mother." "The exile bell rings in 6 minutes," one guard said. "Then report quickly." They did. Stellan reached the tower before Orcella. He wore no ceremonial coat now. Only the fitted black shirt Miren had altered to spare his damaged shoulder. Without the velvet, the unevenness of his posture was harder to conceal. His gaze found the glowing lines on her sleeve. "Did you make this after leaving the hall?" "No." "Then how did the thread move?" "It carried a strain map." The spiders followed what remained trapped in the lining. He stepped closer. The silver lines reflected faintly in his eyes. "What does it show?" Miren did not answer at once. He had cut apart the garment, stripped her standing, and ordered her exile because the court feared what her work might preserve. She would not now soothe him simply because the evidence disturbed him. "It shows pressure, heat, strain, and direction," she said. "Nothing kinder, nothing more." "Direction of what?" "The wound beneath your left shoulder." His hand rose toward the scar, then stopped before touching it. "You never saw the battlefield." "I saw what the battlefield left in your body." The exile bell rope tightened below. A guard at the tower window raised one hand, waiting for the signal to begin. Stellan looked toward him. "Hold the bell." The guard lowered his arm. Miren kept her expression still. Holding the bell was not mercy. It was fear that the cloth might remember more. It did not restore the guild mark hidden in her palm. It did not undo the shears or the public order that had made her work unlawful. It only delayed the moment the kingdom would treat her exile as settled fact. Orcella entered with the guildmaster behind her. Her gaze moved once across the spider map. Grief, contamination, she said. The tower is old, the thread unlawful, and the seamstress under emotional distress. Moon, spiders are vermin drawn to charged cloth. They are drawn to retain strain, Miren said. According to a practice removed from lawful guild study, removed after the Northern Campaign, Orcella looked toward the guildmaster. Master Vale, explain why such thread was forbidden. The elderly man swallowed. Memory. Stitches were once permitted for battlefield tailoring. Once? Before the safety revisions. Miren watched his hands. His right thumb pressed repeatedly against the side of his forefinger, the old guild sign for unwilling testimony. The guild had not forgotten memory stitches, she said. It had learned to survive by pretending Orcella had. The master closed his eyes briefly. Stellan turned toward him. Were they lawful when my coat was first made? Yes, Highness. Orcella's voice remained calm. The pattern books were destroyed because body imprint cloth could be altered, exploited, or used to expose private royal infirmity. Burned records lie more easily than cloth, Miren said. Cloth does not understand war. No, it understands contact. Stellan looked again at the map. The wound entered from behind? Miren pointed without touching the silver line. This is the pressure direction. The fabric tightened forward across your chest, while the force entered beneath the shoulder blade. You were facing north. The enemy line was north. Yes. Then who stood behind me? The shield line assigned to protect your left rear. Orcella descended one step into the workroom. Battle formations collapse. Men turn. Horses panic. A wound angle proves confusion, not betrayal. The map does not show accusation, Miren said. It shows absence. Stellan's jaw tightened. Bring the northern formation ledger. Orcella did not look at him. It was destroyed in the supply fire after the retreat. The roster, also lost. The horn records, lost with the command tent. Miren lifted the sleeve. The coat remembers what the war records burned. A servant appeared at the tower entrance carrying a silver cup. Miren smelled the tonic before he crossed the room. The same bitter metal always came before Stellan forgot pain, command, and the hours surrounding the northern pass. She had watched him drink it during fittings, then lose the thread of conversations that had begun before the cup reached his hand. The tonic did not erase everything. It taught his memory which doorway not to open. Your medicine, Highness, the servant said. Orcella's voice remained gentle. The coronation physicians ordered that no dose be missed. Stellan looked from the cup to the empty shield line. Who prepared it? The royal healing chamber. Under whose authority? Orcella's expression did not shift. Mine, while your war fever remains under treatment. He took the cup, but did not drink immediately. Miren saw the conflict in his face. He distrusted the timing now, yet his body had learned to fear what happened when a dose was delayed. His scarred shoulder had already begun tightening beneath the shirt. He drank. Within moments, his eyes lost focus. His fingers closed around the cup hard enough to bend its silver rim. What happened? Miren asked. He looked toward the empty shield line on her sleeve. I remember facing north. And behind you? A horn. Orcella's attention sharpened. You were fevered for 9 days. Memory from that hour is unreliable. Stellan pressed one hand against the side of his head. The horn sounded after I fell. Miren watched the moon spiders. One moved. Not toward Stellan. Toward the cuff, where the final piece of silver lining remained caught beneath her severed guild mark. It pulled a single thread downward. The line did not create another battlefield scene. It formed a short, repeated vibration pattern beside the empty shield line. Miren knew the stitch. Every military tailor did. 3 narrow pulls. 1 long strain. The pattern used to record a withdrawal horn carried through cloth. Stellan stared at it. The signal came after I was wounded. Miren examined where the vibration crossed the wound line. No. She placed one finger beside the sequence. The withdrawal strain had entered the coat first. The spear pressure came afterward. Stellan had cut apart the only garment that knew he had not failed the shield line. The shield line had failed him. Orcella stepped nearer. Horn sequence can distort when tension shifts through damaged cloth. Echoes from the command ridge often reach different formations at different intervals. Cloth does not understand motive, Miren said, but it understands order. The map had stopped showing battle. It had started showing command. The shield line opened. The withdrawal horn sounded. Then the weapon entered Stellan from behind. Someone had ordered his protection away before he fell, and the thread still held the tone of the horn that had done it. The exile bell did not ring, but Miren heard what silence cost Stellan. Below the velvet tower, witnesses had gathered to watch her removal. Guild apprentices stood beside merchants who could no longer purchase her work. Palace servants waited with bundles for whatever an outlawed seamstress might carry beyond the western gate. Stellan had stopped the bell. He had not cancelled the exile. Queen Mother Orcella stood near the window, one hand resting against the black moonstone clasp at her throat. "Every hour the bell is held weakens succession law," she said. "A woman accused of placing unauthorized memory, thread against the air, cannot remain inside the coronation walls." Miren folded her map sleeve over her chest. "A woman accused is not a woman proven guilty. You admitted preserving private wound impressions. I preserved contact. For leverage. For fit." Orcella looked toward Stellan. "Tomorrow the rival packs will measure every weakness in this palace. If they learn your body was secretly recorded by a guild servant, they will call your coronation compromised." His face hardened at the word weakness. Miren saw the old fear move through him, not fear of the scars, but fear that others would decide they had made him governable. "Bring the horn registry," she said. Orcella turned. "This is not your inquiry. It is my sleeve. You have no guild standing. The thread does." Stellan examined the vibration pattern beside the empty shield line. The moon spiders hung motionless above the cutting table. The remaining cloth could prove no more. Evidence had stopped. Human judgment had not. "Bring the registry," Stellan ordered. "The Coronation Guard cannot abandon its post to search old military vaults," Orcella said. "Send the archivist." The war horns were damaged, exchanged, and duplicated across 3 campaigns. "Then the registry will show that." Master Vale remained beside the door, shoulders bowed beneath his guild robes. Miren faced him. "Tell him what sound." "Strain stitching recorded." His gaze dropped. Orcella answered. "Vibration through unstable cloth, nothing more." The guildmaster's thumb pressed against his forefinger. "Unwilling testimony," Stellan noticed. "Master Vale." The old man exhaled. Military lining once included sound, strain rows. Tailors used them to distinguish command horns when smoke or darkness hid the signal ridge. "Could the stitch record tone?" Stellan asked. "Not as the ear hears it. Interval, force, repetition. The way vibration entered cloth." Miren lifted her sleeve. 3 short pulls, 1 long strain. Master Vale went pale. "Withdrawal command. A common battlefield signal," Orcella said. "With different interval weights for each command house," Miren replied. Stellan faced the guildmaster. "Why was the practice removed?" Orcella stepped between them. "Because grieving families brought torn uniforms to guild halls and demanded that thread identify commanders, traitors, and killers." "Did the stitches lie?" Stellan asked. "They could be misread. That was not my question." Master Vale closed his eyes. "The pattern books were not burned because the stitches lied. They were burned because they remembered sound." "Whose order?" Miren asked. His eyes moved toward Orcella. "Royal Safety Revision. 3 months after the Northern Campaign." Orcella did not flinch. Succession could not survive every battlefield scrap becoming political evidence. "The revision named sound? Strain specifically?" Stellan asked. "Yes." The archivist arrived, carrying an iron case chained to his wrist. Inside lay plates engraved with royal warhorn signatures. The northern alpha houses used double strikes. The eastern cavalry used 4 rapid pulses. The Crow command ridge used 3 short calls and 1 long withdrawal note. Miren placed the correct plate beside her sleeve. The intervals aligned exactly. At the bottom, the horn was identified by material and office. Black Moonstone Command Horn, held under the authority of the Queen Mother's field household. 3 duplicates were commissioned during the war, Orcella said. The archivist hesitated. 2, Your Grace. He opened a smaller register. 1 remained in the Southern Reserve, 1 was issued to the Northern Command Ridge. "And the original?" Stellan asked. "Carried by the Queen, Mother's war steward." "Who survived the retreat?" No, Highness. Convenient, Miren said. Orcella turned toward her. A dead steward cannot defend himself against cloth interpreted by the woman accused of making it. The map does not name him. You claim the cloth does not accuse while arranging every line to accuse me. The horn sounded before the spear entered. Miren said, Cloth does not understand motive, but it understands order. Orcella faced Stellan. You were wounded, fevered, and half-shifted. Horns echoed across the pass. Miren is making uncertainty look deliberate. Stellan pressed his fingers against his temple. The tonic had softened his shoulder pain, but drawn a blank wall across the hour they were discussing. I remember the horn, he said. Not who stood beside me, because the fever damaged you, Orcella replied. Miren looked toward the bent silver cup. The tonic did not erase everything. It taught his memory which doorway not to open. You are a seamstress, not a healer. I fitted him after every memory interview. Stellan looked at her. What interviews? The ones held after midnight in the Eastern Chamber. You arrived remembering the Northern Pass. You left asking why your shoulder hurt. Trauma treatment requires controlled recall, Orcella said. Then open the tonic register, Stellan ordered. Medical records are sealed. My records. Your coronation opponents would weaponize them. You have used that answer for 3 years. The healing ledger was brought under guard. Its entries covered every public appearance, council session, and interview concerning the Northern campaign. Tonic administered before coronation rehearsal, before council testimony, before questioning surviving officers. Before each attempt to reconstruct the shield line collapse, the dosage increased whenever Stellan remembered the withdrawal horn before the spear. Miren traced the repeated notes. Memory agitation. Comment fixation. Dose repeated. Your medicine did not help him remember safely, she said. It made his memory step around the horn. It prevented a wounded wolf from building certainty around fractured recollection, Orcella answered. Stellan turned the final page. A folded order had been sewn into the ledger binding. His signature appeared beneath a command authorizing the destruction of all remaining Northern formation records for succession security. The date matched the longest blank period in his medical history. The order had been signed 12 hours after a double tonic dose. The ink might have been guided by poison, but the court had obeyed his name. Stellan touched the signature as if it might reject his hand. Miren looked from the order to the woman who had controlled his treatment. Orcella had not merely burned the records behind his back. She had taught his memory to avoid the hour, then placed his own name beneath the fire. The order bears his signature, Orcella said. She did not raise her voice. The folded command lay open beneath Stellan's hand, its black seal cracked but recognizable. Every person in the Velvet Tower understood what royal ink meant. A signature could be coerced, drugged, or regretted. Until law declared otherwise, it still moved guards, emptied archives, and ruined lives. So did the exile, Miren said. Orcella looked at her. Miren held the severed guild crescent in her palm. The same authority that burned the formation records ordered my mark cut away. Stellan's gaze shifted from the destruction order to the silver crescent. Finding the truth of his scar had not restored the mark he had ordered cut from her sleeve. Orcella turned toward the archivist. Record that the prince's command remains valid unless revoked by Coronation Council. Treatment does not suspend royal authority. Double tonic is not clean consent, Miren said. Consent is not the standard for emergency succession orders. Then what is? Continuity. Orcella faced Stellan. A prince under treatment may still issue security commands. If every order made during fever were void, half the Northern campaign would have no lawful history. The history was destroyed, Miren said, to prevent unstable testimony from becoming a weapon. Stellan looked at the healing ledger. Who authorized the double dose? The Royal Healing Chamber. Under whose authority? Emergency maternal regency during medical incapacity. Show me the order. A second packet was brought from the iron case. It bore the wolf crown seal, the physician's marks, and Orcella's signature beneath a clause granting her control over Stellan's treatment whenever his memory or shifting threatened succession security. The date preceded the destruction order by 3 weeks. You could increase the dosage without my approval, Stellan said. If the physicians judged you unstable? Physicians sworn to you, Miren said. To the crown. You protected succession, Miren said. I protected the body you needed succession to wear. Stellan's damaged shoulder pulled inward beneath his shirt. Miren recognized the strain. For 3 years, She had altered seams before pain became visible. Now she did not move to help him. He noticed. Orcella lifted the medical order. I kept rival packs from learning that the heir woke clawing at walls, forgot commanders, and could not lift his arm after moonrise. Had those facts reached the council, Stellan would have been placed under guardianship. And so you made forgetting useful, Miren said. I made governing possible. You made obedience look like recovery. Stellan folded the document. Cancel the exile. You cannot reverse a guild sentence without council review, Orcella said. I issued the palace order. No bell, no gate. Miren Barlow remains under royal protection as a material witness. Not protection, Miren said. Witness standing prevents confinement and removal. It places me under the authority of the man who ordered my ruin. I am preventing further harm. You are preventing the court from losing evidence. Stellan did not deny it. Both. Below the window, merchants and apprentices still waited. They had seen Miren taken away without a guild mark. By nightfall, every buyer in the capital would know her hands had been judged unlawful. His memory had been wounded, but her hands had been made illegal in front of every buyer who once needed them. Canceling the bell is not restoring what you cut, she said. Stellan turned toward Master Vale. Restore her guild mark. The old man moved at once. Miren raised one hand. No. You refuse restoration? Stellan asked. I refuse concealment. The mark can be resewn. In this tower? Where no apprentice can see it, no merchant, no witness, except the man who allowed it to be cut? Master Vale lowered his eyes. Miren placed the crescent beside the healing ledger. Public ruin requires public repair. Stellan looked toward the courtyard. What do you require? An open guild assembly. The accusation read aloud. The lawful status of memory stitch when your coat was made entered into record. My mark restored before the same class of witnesses who watched it severed. Orcella spoke before he could answer. And while she stages her vindication, rival packs arrive to find the heir's treatment exposed, military records questioned, and forbidden evidence hanging from a disgraced seamstress's sleeve. Forbidden after it preserved what you wanted forgotten, Miren said. Forbidden by law. Law written after the cloth remembered. Orcella turned to the guard. Summon the Coronation Security Council. Stellan stepped between her and the door. On whose authority? Mine, under the emergency provision you are challenging. Until the council removes it, I remain responsible for succession stability. She looked at Miren's sleeve. The council will decide whether a coronation may proceed while an unlicensed craftswoman uses prohibited body imprint evidence to accuse the crown's field household. The horn registry proves office, not hand, Stellan said. Exactly. Orcella's mouth curved without warmth. Duplicates existed. A dead steward carried the original. The tonic was lawful. Your signature remains yours. And Miren handled forbidden thread after her standing was severed. The spiders moved it, Master Vale said. Then explain why your guild permits vermin to practice law. The moon spiders remained still. The cloth had finished remembering. Now the court had to decide whether memory mattered when it accused the crown. Boots sounded on the tower stair. A slower step dragged behind them, weighted by an old injury. A sentry entered. Highness, a northern veteran forced passage through the western court. He says he served the shield line behind you. A broad man followed. One side of his jaw bore the pale bite of winter steel. His left leg moved stiffly. Across his shoulders hung a faded campaign coat patched at the collar and reinforced beneath the ribs. Miren knew the stitching. She had repaired that coat 6 years ago for a soldier who would not say where the command ridge had sent him. The veteran looked at Stellan, then Orcella. I heard the exile bell was being raised, he said. I came before another record disappeared. He laid the coat beside Miren's sleeve. Moonlight touched the old lining. 3 short strains brightened inside the cloth. Then one long pull, the same withdrawal horn. This time, the pattern ended beneath a stitched name, Orcella's war steward. The veteran refused to kneel. My left leg no longer bends far enough for ceremony, he said. The northern pass took that before the court decided it had taken the rest of me. Orcella studied him without surprise. Name, Tavian Rusk. 3rd shield rank, left rear formation. The archivist opened the casualty register. His finger stopped halfway down the page. Tavian Rusk was recorded dead during the retreat. I noticed. Several guards shifted around him. A dead soldier had no standing before coronation law. He could not testify, inherit wages, challenge a military record, or accuse the office that had entered his death. Orcella looked toward Stellan. You asked for a surviving shieldman. What has arrived is a man using a dead soldier's name. Tavian removed the faded coat from the cutting table. Miren saw how carefully he handled it. Not like evidence. Like the final object still permitted to remember him. Check the inner collar, he said. Master Vale examined the stitches. A maker's knot remained beneath the worn edge. Miren's old guild signature, dated 6 years earlier. Below it lay 3 later military repair marks from the Northern Campaign. The coat belonged to him before the war, Master Vale said. Or to someone using his name, Orcella replied. Tavian gave a tired smile. You declared me dead. Now you require death to prove I lived. Miren looked at the casualty register. Who entered his death? The archivist turned the page toward the light. Queen, Mother's war steward. The same stitched name appeared inside Tavian's coat. Orcella did not look at the lining. My steward recorded hundreds of battlefield losses from second-hand reports. I was standing in front of him when he recorded mine, Tavian said. Stellan's attention sharpened. Where? At the lower signal shelter. 2 days after the pass. You spoke to him. I asked why the shield line had been ordered away before you fell. What did he say? That the Wolf Crown required 1 clean survivor's account, not 40 frightened contradictions. Orcella stepped nearer. And you waited 3 years to speak? I spoke twice. The first clerk vanished from the military office. The second informed me that dead men who disputed royal records were hanged as impostors. Yet, you lived freely in the capital? I lived under another name repairing river walls. Convenient again, Orcella said. No, Miren replied. Necessary. Orcella turned toward her. Miren placed her severed guild mark beside Tavian's casualty entry. You erase a person-in-law. Then you call their survival suspicious because the law you wrote cannot recognize them. This is not about your guild sentence. It is the same method. Tavian had been made too dead to testify. Miren had been made too unlawful to work. Stellan had been made too unstable to trust his own memory. Different records. The same silence. Orcella faced Master Vale. The seamstress repaired this coat. She had opportunity to place the pattern. 6 years ago, Miren said. And again after the campaign, perhaps. No. You expect the court to accept your word? No. I expect the guild to examine its own work. Master Vale turned the lining toward the window. The original repair thread is oxidized at the knot. The sound strain lies in the campaign lining stitched over it. Miren did not set that lining. Who did? The old man found a faded military mark beneath the ribs. Field Tailor Joran Cask. The archivist searched the guild rolls. Executed for desertion 4 months after the retreat. Orcella's expression remained still. Another dead man. Another witness made unusable, Miren said. Stellan looked toward Tavian. Tell me what happened after the horn. Orcella intervened. He has no legal standing. Then give it to him. A prince cannot restore a military identity during emergency succession review. Who can? The Coronation Council. Then convene it now. The rival packs arrive before dawn. Opening the council with disputed war testimony could delay your crowning. So could learning that my authority was used to erase soldiers. Orcella lowered her voice. You are allowing a forbidden craftswoman, an illegal corpse, to decide whether the crown survives tomorrow. Miren answered before Stellan could. No. We are deciding whether the crown survives by requiring everyone beneath it to disappear. The words held him. For 3 years, Miren had softened every garment around his wound so no one would see what pain demanded from him. Now she refused to soften the truth around his authority. Stellan turned toward the guard captain. Announce that the exile order is revoked pending public review. Miren did not thank him. Pending review still leaves my hands unlawful. I know. Do you? His gaze dropped to the crescent on the table. The prince had learned that his memory had been handled. Miren was still waiting for him to understand that her life had been. Master Vale, Stellan said. Summon an open guild assembly in the Western Court. The accusation, the status of memory thread at the time of commission, and the severing order will be entered before witnesses. Orcella's eyes hardened. You would expose internal guild law hours before coronation. I exposed it when I ordered her mark cut. The admission was not an apology. It was better than one offered too early. Miren looked toward the courtyard below. The same buyers who had watched her taken away would now be required to watch the law examine what it had done. Until the assembly rules, Stellan continued, the severed mark remains evidence. No one is to resew it in private. Master Vale bowed. Orcella turned to Tavian. And what does the dead shieldman demand in exchange for his appearance? My name returned. Only that? No. He placed both hands on the campaign coat. I want the men declared deserters beside me restored to the roll. How many? 17 survived the first withdrawal. The archivist frowned. The register records no survivors from the left rear formation. Because the steward closed the signal shelter before we reached it. Stellan stepped closer. You said the horn ordered you away. It did. Then why did you return? Tavian looked at the scar above Stellan's collar. Because you gave a countermand. Stellan went still. I remember no countermand. You were on your knees when you gave it. One hand over the wound. You ordered us back to the shield line. Did you hear my voice? Every man beside me heard it. Then why did none of you reach me? Tavian turned the coat over. Along the lower lining ran a second band of damage Miren had not noticed. Not sound strain. Compression marks, narrow and evenly spaced, as if iron bars had closed against a crowd of armored bodies. The command ridge gate was sealed from inside, he said. By whom? Stellan asked. The steward's guard. Orcella's face remained unreadable. Tavian looked directly at her. The horn sent us away. His hand closed over the crushed lining. But the locked gate made certain we could not come back. The tower guards did not seize Tavian. They looked toward Orcella first. That hesitation told Miren more than obedience would have. These men had learned to wait for the Queen Mother before deciding what Stellan's authority required. Orcella examined the crushed band inside Tavian's coat. A sealed gate during retreat is not evidence of betrayal, she said. It is containment. Containment of whom? Stellan asked. You. Orcella lifted the healing ledger. Field reports described you as fevered, bleeding, and near involuntary shift. If you had reached the signal shelter, every officer inside would have been endangered. Tavian's mouth tightened. He was still giving commands. A wounded wolf can speak while losing control. He ordered us back, and the steward prevented armed men from opening a route into a compromised shelter. Miren touched the compressed lining. The marks were narrow, parallel, and deepest from the outer surface inward. Armor had been pressed against the coat by iron bars. Containment gates close against danger approaching from outside, Orcella said. This one did, Miren replied. Stellan looked at her. Miren traced the lowest ridge, but the cloth was crushed before the horn strain entered it. Master Vale moved closer. The fiber order supports her reading. Orcella's eyes sharpened. Explain. The gate pressure entered first, Miren said. The withdrawal signal entered afterward. Tavian stared at his coat. We heard the horn before we turned back. You did, but your coat touched the locked gate before the signal reached the shelter wall. That is impossible, Orcella said. No. It means the gate was already sealed when the withdrawal command sounded. Stellan faced Tavian. How could you reach it first? We were assigned inside the lower shelter at dawn, Tavian said. The steward moved us to the left rear line before the attack. I returned for replacement straps and found it barred from within. Before the withdrawal order? Yes. Orcella folded her hands. A prudent precaution. Against soldiers assigned to protect the air? Miren asked. Against battlefield confusion. Confusion does not pre-bar a gate. Below, guild members assembled around the raised exile bell. Black aprons, silver cuffs, and merchant seals filled the courtyard. Master Vale looked toward the window. The assembly is ready. The Coronation Security Council takes precedence, Orcella said. The guild sentence was carried out before any council reviewed it, Miren replied. You admitted the thread. I admitted the work, not the crime. Stellan lifted the severed crescent. Then the guild hears the matter now. Orcella stepped into his path. If you descend holding that mark, you turn a private inquiry into a public challenge to my wartime authority. It became public when the shears touched her sleeve. Orcella's composure narrowed. Then let the guild hear everything. Miren preserved the heir's body without authorization, concealed military impressions, and handled prohibited thread after removal. Miren took the crescent from Stellan. I will carry what was cut from me. They descended, but not as allies. Stellan walked before the guards. Tavian followed under witness protection. Master Vale carried the horn plate and healing ledger. Orcella came last, still wearing authority not yet revoked. The courtyard quieted. The exile bell hung above the platform, its rope drawn tight. At its base stood the warden who had severed Miren's mark. Master Vale opened the assembly. Miren Barlow stands accused of placing unlawful memory. Threat against Wolf Prince Stellan Crowe. State when the coat was commissioned, Miren said. 3 years and 8 months ago, the archivist answered. State when memory, stitch was prohibited. 3 years and 5 months ago. A murmur moved through the merchants. Orcella raised one hand. Possession became unlawful after revision, regardless of the original commission. Master Vale read the charter. Only if the maker received notice and refused surrender. Was I summoned? Miren asked. The record keeper searched. No notice appears. Was a tribunal convened before my mark was cut? The warden went pale. No. Who ordered the severing? He looked toward Stellan, the prince. Stellan stood where every buyer could see him. I did. No excuse followed. Miren let the silence remain attached to him. Master Vale turned another page. Without notice or tribunal, guild standing cannot be lawfully revoked. Miren's hands had not become innocent because the charter found a missing procedure. But they had never legally become criminal. Orcella stepped forward. Then suspend her standing under coronation security law until the council rules. You cannot use a second law to hide the failure of the first, Miren said. I can prevent contaminated evidence from entering royal proceedings. The evidence already entered. You are trying to remove the woman who can read it. Stellan faced the assembly. The exile order is revoked. Miren Barlow will not be removed, confined, or denied guild access pending open review. Miren held up the severed crescent. Pending review is not restoration. No, he said. It is the limit of what I can lawfully order here. At least he had stopped dressing power as generosity. Master Vale addressed the guild. Until tribunal judgment, Miren Barlow's standing remains legally active. The same courtyard that had waited to see her cast out now heard that her hands had never lawfully ceased belonging to her, but the mark remained cut. Miren placed it on the table. Enter the severing into the public record. The scribe dipped his pen. Orcella looked toward Tavian's coat. The gate claim still rests on one dead man's garment and one disgraced seamstress's interpretation. Not one garment, Tavian said. 17 veterans entered through the western arch in faded campaign coats. Some limped. One carried an empty sleeve pinned across his chest. Another used a cane made from a broken spear shaft. Each coat bore the same compression marks. Master Vale examined 3 linings. Every gate mark lay beneath the withdrawal strain. The gates had been locked before the horn sounded. The final veteran placed a broken iron tooth on the assembly table. Stamped into its base was the seal of the office that had ordered the lower shelter barred. Not the dead steward's personal mark. The Queen Mother's emergency authority. The broken gate tooth changed the assembly from a guild hearing into a challenge against the crown. No one in the Western Court spoke while the archivist cleaned mud from the metal stamp. Queen Mother emergency authority. Orcella studied the 17 veterans standing beneath the raised exile bell. An office seal proves authority, she said. It does not prove whose hand gave the instruction. Tavian Rusk rested both hands on his cane. The gate was locked before your horn ordered us away. My steward exercised emergency power throughout the retreat. Then enter his written order, Miren said. Orcella faced her. The signal shelter burned. The horn registry survived. In another vault, the healing ledger survived. Inside a protected medical archive, the order bearing Stellan's drugged signature survived. Because royal commands are preserved, Miren pointed toward the gate tooth. Everything that protected your version survived. Everything that could challenge it burned, vanished, or was declared dead. A horn sounded beyond the western arch. Not a military withdrawal call. The 3 measured notes of Coronation Council. 9 counselors entered wearing dark ceremonial mantles. Behind them came the chief royal physician and 4 crown guards carrying a locked document chest. Orcella stepped away from the assembly table. The Security Council has been summoned to determine whether forbidden evidence, disputed military identities, and the prince's impaired recollection now threaten tomorrow's succession. Stellan looked at the guards. You summoned armed council before the gate seal was produced. I summoned them when you delayed the exile bell, before the horn registry arrived. I did not require thread to recognize destabilization. The eldest counselor stopped before Stellan. Highness the Queen, Mother reports that your treatment has been interrupted and that you are issuing commands while under memory agitation. My treatment was not interrupted. The prescribed dose was delayed, long enough for me to ask who controlled it. The chief physician lowered his gaze. Orcella indicated the healing ledger. The same record Miren uses against me proves Stellan remains under active treatment. Miren saw the shape of the argument. Orcella no longer needed to disprove every piece of evidence. She only needed to make the man receiving it legally incapable of acting upon it. The eldest counselor turned toward Miren. You handled prohibited memory. Thread after your guild mark was severed. My standing was never lawfully removed. The physical mark was removed, without notice or tribunal. That matter belongs to the guild. It belonged to the crown when the prince ordered the blade. Stellan stepped beside the assembly table. The severing was unlawful. Orcella looked at him. You cannot declare your own order unlawful while insisting your present orders remain binding. The first was made without hearing evidence, and these are made while questioning your memory. Miren lifted the severed crescent. The order bears his signature, she said. So did the exile. Neither fact makes the harm clean. The counselors looked toward her. She continued. His memory was treated as property of succession. My hands were treated as property of his fear. Tavian's life was treated as property of a casualty register. Every person who threatened the official story was made legally smaller than the record used against them. Orcella's expression cooled. This assembly was called to examine your guild standing, not to permit speeches against the crown. Then finish the examination. Master Vale opened the guild charter. The accusation against Miren Barlow was entered without notice. Her mark was severed without tribunal. The thread was lawful when commissioned, and no surrender order was served afterward. He faced the assembled guild members. By charter, her standing was never legally extinguished. The warden who had cut Miren's cuff shifted near the platform. Miren looked at him. Read the correction. His face reddened. I acted under royal command. So did the men who raised the exile bell. Master Vale placed the public record before him. The warden swallowed. The removal of Miren Barlow's guild standing lacked lawful notice, hearing, and finding. The severing was invalid. The merchants heard it. The apprentices heard it. The palace servants holding her exile bundles heard it. Miren set the crescent against the torn place on her sleeve. Master Vale offered to assist. She took the needle from his hand. No concealed stitch. Standing beneath the same bell prepared for her exile, Miren began repairing the mark herself. The needle passed through black fabric and divided silver thread. Her hands did not tremble. The court watched the woman it had called unlawful sign herself back into public existence. Stellan did not reach for the cloth. He stood where the witnesses could see that the damage had been ordered in his name. When Miren tied the final knot, the crescent did not look untouched. A narrow break remained through its center. She left it visible. Restoration is not erasure, she said. The guild scribe entered the repair into the record. Orcella turned toward the coronation council. The guild has ruled. Now the crown must. The eldest counselor opened the security charter. Tomorrow's coronation may proceed only if the heir demonstrates stable command and freedom from unlawful influence. Whose influence? Stellan asked. The counselor looked at Miren's repaired sleeve. Any person or device shaping royal judgment through prohibited impressions. The horn registry is not hers, Stellan said. The veterans' identities remain disputed. The gate tooth carries royal authority, delegated authority, and the tonic ledger? Lawful treatment. Stellan looked across the courtyard, at Miren, at Tavian and the men erased beside him, at the merchants who had watched one order turn a lifetime of work into contraband. Then he removed the black coronation clasp from his collar. Orcella's composure changed for the first time. Do not mistake spectacle for courage. Stellan placed the clasp on the table. The coronation is suspended until the Northern Records, the tonic authority, and Miren Barlow's public accusation are heard before open council. A murmur broke across the court. Delaying the coronation meant rival pacts could challenge his succession. Estates could withhold oaths. The council could name him medically unfit. Orcella had built the trap so that seeking truth looked exactly like instability. The eldest counselor closed the charter. By suspending coronation while under active treatment, you invoke incapacity review. I invoke it knowingly. Miren studied him. For the first time, Stellan had placed his own future beneath the same public scrutiny his order had forced upon hers. It did not repay the damage, but it cost him something. Orcella turned toward the chief physician. Present the medical petition. The guards unlocked the document chest. Inside lay an order authorizing Stellan's confinement in the Eastern Healing Chamber if he delayed coronation, rejected prescribed treatment, or permitted forbidden influence over succession decisions. The petition carried all 9 council seals. Stellan read the date. His hand went still. The order had been approved the night before Miren's coat was cut apart, before the spiders descended, before the horn registry was opened, before anyone in the court was supposed to know his memory would be questioned. Miren looked from the prepared confinement order to Orcella. Her public accusation had never created the succession crisis. It had been chosen to begin one. The crown guards closed around Stellan before the council finished reading the confinement order. They carried no chains. Chains would have admitted force. Ceremonial escort allowed Orcella to call obedience voluntary. You will remain in the Eastern Healing Chamber until the incapacity review concludes, the eldest counselor said. Stellan looked at the 9 seals. Who submitted the petition? The Queen, Mother's medical office. On what evidence? Memory instability, treatment refusal, and susceptibility to prohibited influence. Miren stepped toward the document chest. Treatment refusal had not occurred when this was approved. Orcella turned to her. The petition anticipated possible deterioration. It anticipated his exact response. A responsible regent prepares for foreseeable danger. The order names forbidden influence, Miren said, before my thread was revealed. Memory. Thread had been inside his coat for years. But you claimed not to know. I knew you had unauthorized access to the prince's body. I tailored him. You recorded him, at his request for garments that did not hurt, not at his request for evidence. Stellan's jaw tightened. The accusation still reached the fear beneath his scar. That care had hidden surveillance. Miren did not soften the truth. I preserved the wound without your consent, she said. You destroyed my standing without hearing me. Both facts remain. Orcella faced the council. She admits prohibited influence. I admit responsibility. That does not make your record clean. The eldest counselor gestured to the guards. Remove the prince before agitation worsens. Stellan stayed where he was. Will the review be open? Medical incapacity proceedings are sealed. Then Miren's accusation will be heard without Miren. A guild craftswoman has no standing in succession review. She is a material witness. Witness status does not grant access. Miren looked again at the petition. The lower edge carried tiny punctures, not binding holes, basting marks. A sliver of black velvet clung beneath the seal wax. The same velvet as Stellan's ruined coronation coat. Master Vale, she said. Examine the edge. A guard blocked her. Do not touch crown evidence. I do not need to. Master Vale bent over the document. Pattern basting marks. Orcella's voice remained calm. Royal papers pass through many workrooms. Medical petitions do not, Miren said. Master Vale lifted one corner with a pin. Black velvet fiber. Stellan looked toward the coat draped over the assembly rail. Miren remembered the commission packet delivered 6 weeks earlier. Orcella's office had required a removable inner pattern so the coat could be altered quickly before the rival packs arrived. She had thought the instruction excessive. Now she understood. Bring the original coat commission. The prince is being confined, Orcella said. This is not a tailoring inquiry. It became one when someone basted his medical petition to his coronation pattern. The archive clerk looked toward Stellan. Bring it, he ordered. The guard still permitted him to speak. The commission arrived in a gray folder bearing Orcella's household seal. Miren opened it on the assembly table. The outer instructions named velvet weight, silver lining, shoulder ease, and ceremonial length. The inner sheet contained a separate clause. Public integrity inspection before coronation. Garment to be opened before assembled witnesses if contamination suspected. Authority granted to the heir or maternal regent. Stellan read it twice. You arranged for the coat to be cut publicly. I arranged for coronation security. Before accusing Miren. Before discovering the extent of her unauthorized work. Miren turned the sheet over. The same basting holes marked its edge. The petition and commission had been fixed to one pattern board. Prepared together. The public destruction of the coat, Miren's accusation, and Stellan's confinement had not been separate responses to unexpected evidence. They had been one sequence. A contingency plan is not conspiracy, Orcella said. If the coat proved clean, the petition would not have been needed. But it was already sealed, Miren replied, to prevent delay during a succession emergency. You did not prepare for contamination. You prepared for Stellan to question you after I was accused. You assumed the petition concerned you. It named prohibited influence. The inspection clause named the garment. My mark was ordered severed before anyone examined whether the thread had been lawful when stitched. Master Vale lowered his head. Stellan faced the 9 counselors. Did you know the petition was attached to the coat commission? No one answered. The eldest counselor finally said, We received a medical summary. The Queen, Mother's office, supplied the language. You sealed my confinement without examining the evidence. We sealed a safeguard. You sealed the room where my questions would be taken. The guards tightened around him. Orcella spoke with measured patience. Every delay strengthens rival claims. If Stellan resists lawful review, the council may treat resistance as proof of incapacity. Miren saw the trap. Submit and disappear behind medical walls. Resist and prove himself unstable before the packs arrived. Stellan looked at the coronation clasp on the table. He did not reclaim it. I will attend the review. Orcella's shoulders eased slightly. Under protest, he added. With the doors open. Impossible. Then record that you confined the heir under a petition prepared before the alleged crisis. The eldest counselor hesitated. Miren placed her repaired guild mark beside the seals. I claim witness access. You have no royal standing, Orcella said. I have guild standing, material witness status, and proof that my work was used to trigger this order. That does not admit you to a medical review. No, the coat does. Miren lifted the ruined velvet from the rail. If this garment is the alleged source of prohibited influence, it must enter as evidence. Guild law requires its maker to testify when construction is disputed. Master Vale opened the charter. She is correct. For the first time, he did not lower his eyes beneath Orcella's stare. The council could confine Stellan. It could not examine Miren's coat without admitting Miren beside it. The guards escorted them toward the eastern chamber together, not prince and servant, not accused and protector, but 2 witnesses carrying the same ruined garment into a hearing designed to separate them. At the chamber door, the chief physician stopped. A fresh medical slate hung beside the lock. Stellan's name stood at the top. Below it, written before the council had left the courtyard, was the treatment ordered for the review. Double tonic. Memory suppression. Until coronation concluded. The chief physician reached for the tonic tray. Miren moved first. She spread Stellan's ruined coat across the silver cups. If the garment is evidence, no treatment may touch the witness before examination. The eldest counselor frowned. You obstruct a medical order. I preserve contested material. If you suppress his memory before he testifies, you alter the proceeding. Stellan looked at the physician. Was this dose prepared before the council left the courtyard? Yes, Highness. Under whose instruction? Standing emergency protocol. Orcella entered carrying the medical authority packet. Mine, she said. The same authority already examined in public. It remains lawful until revoked. Miren lifted 1 cup. Bitter metal rose from it. Then let the council hear what it contains. The formula is sealed, the physician said. Every secret here becomes succession law when someone asks who it harmed. The eldest counselor opened the incapacity charter. Refusal of treatment may be entered as evidence of instability. Stellan faced him. An acceptance would leave me unable to answer. The physicians dispute that. Then let them drink it, Tavian said from the doorway. 17 veterans filled the corridor behind him. Master Vale stood among them with the guild record. This is a sealed review, Orcella said. It stopped being sealed when the doors remained open, Stellan replied. The counselor ordered the corridor cleared. No, Miren said. The word held because every witness outside had watched law change whenever doors closed. She opened the inner collar of Stellan's coat. For 3 years, this fabric rested against him after every dose. Tonic vapor, sweat, and skin salts entered the lining. Compare the old residue with the cup prepared today. Textile residue cannot establish dosage, the physician said. Not dosage, continuity. Master Vale stepped forward. The collar can be sampled without damaging the strain map. You are permitting a seamstress to direct medicine, Orcella said. No, Miren replied. I am requiring medicine to answer evidence. The council summoned an independent apothecary from the Western Guild Hospital. Orcella objected. Guild healers hold no authority over royal treatment. Then royal authority may observe, Stellan said. It will not examine itself alone. The apothecary scraped residue from the collar and tested it beside the fresh cup beneath a white flame. Both papers darkened violet black. Blackroot sedative, she said. with silverleaf and memory root. A lawful trauma mixture, the physician answered. At ordinary strength. This cup holds 4 times the maintenance concentration. Because the prince resisted treatment. He had not resisted when it was prepared. Silence settled over the chamber. Miren pointed to the old collar sample. And the residue? Repeated high concentration. Clustered exposure. Can you date it? Approximately by fiber oxidation. Miren had replaced the inner collar after every major council season because the cloth stiffened against Stellan's scar. Bring the alteration invoices. This has exceeded guild relevance, Orsella said. No. This is where my work remembered what your medicine refused to record. The invoices showed new collars fitted before each Northern Pass interview, before the destruction order, and before every declaration that Stellan's memory remained unreliable. The pattern was not treatment alone. It was timed control. Stellan watched the chief physician. Did you increase the dose whenever I recalled the horn? We were instructed to prevent fixation. By whom? The Queen, Mother's office. Orsella did not flinch. I acted lawfully to protect an injured heir from building certainty around fractured memory. You decided which certainty was dangerous, Miren said. I decided which certainty could fracture the kingdom. And mine? Your standing has been restored. My standing was declared never lawfully removed. That does not restore the years your revision made my craft suspect. This hearing concerns the prince. It concerns every person your records made unusable. Tavian stepped inside. My death entry. Master Vale raised the guild charter. Her unlawful severing. The apothecary held the darkened paper. His repeated suppression. Stellan looked at the 9 seals on the confinement order. I withdraw recognition of the Queen, Mother's emergency authority pending open tribunal. The eldest counselor stiffened. You cannot suspend authority created under your own incapacity. Then I invoke conflict of interest. On what basis? Orsella asked. You ordered the treatment under review. You controlled the petition. Your field authority sealed the gate. Your household horn ordered withdrawal. You cannot preside over evidence implicating every branch beneath your hand. The counselors exchanged uneasy looks. Until judgment, Queen, Mother Orsella is barred from directing my medicine, confinement, or coronation security. Rival pack envoys had gathered at the far end of the corridor. To uphold Stellan's order meant exposing division before them. To reject it meant allowing an implicated regent to control the hearing. Orsella removed the black moonstone clasp from her throat and placed it beside the tonic cup. If my authority is suspended, succession law requires an immediate vote on whether Stellan Crowe remains fit to inherit. Stellan did not look away. Call it. A failed vote strips you of the wolf crown permanently, the eldest counselor warned. I understand. Miren studied him. He had once destroyed her standing to protect the appearance of strength. Now he placed the crown where her severed mark had lain. Before witnesses, beneath law, without certainty of return. The council doors opened. 9 voting stones were carried inside. The first turned black, then the second, a third. Before the 4th could be placed, Orsella spoke. If he loses, no prince stands between the rival packs and civil war. Miren looked at the stones, then at the woman who had built every choice, so fear would do her work. The 4th counselor raised his hand and declared Stellan unfit. The 4th black stone did not end the vote. It exposed how many counselors had entered the chamber prepared to condemn Stellan before hearing the evidence. Miren watched the eldest counselor reach for the 5th stone. Stop. He did not. She placed the ruined coronation coat across the voting tray. You may judge him, she said. But first enter what judgment you are making. This is a succession vote, the counselor replied, based on incapacity. Yes. Proved by treatment records controlled by the authority now implicated in that treatment. Orsella's voice remained steady. The council has already accepted the medical record, before the independent apothecary examined it. The mixture was lawful. The concentration was prepared before resistance occurred. Miren turned toward the council scribes. Read the grounds written beneath each black vote. The eldest counselor's hand stopped. Voting stones were normally anonymous. Incapacity law, however, required sealed reasons to prevent rival houses from purchasing a crown through private fear. The scribe opened the first folded slip, memory instability under continuing treatment. The second named refusal of prescribed medicine. The third cited dangerous dependence on forbidden textile influence. The fourth accused Stellan of permitting Miren Barlow to direct succession decisions. Miren looked at the dates. All four were written yesterday. A sound moved through the corridor. Not outrage, but people understanding that the verdict had existed before the hearing. Stellan looked at the counselors. You prepared your reasons before I refused treatment. The fourth counselor stood. We were briefed on expected deterioration. By Orsella's office, Miren said. The eldest counselor closed the slips. Preparation does not invalidate judgment. No, Miren replied. But concealed coordination does. Mastervale opened the coronation charter beside the guild record. A capacity vote is void if voting grounds are supplied by an interested regent without independent examination. Orsella faced him. You are a guild master, not a crown jurist. The archivist spoke from behind the voting table. I am. Everyone turned. He held the charter appendix open. The clause is valid. The vote must be suspended until the evidence is reviewed without the Queen Mother's office directing the record. Orsella's composure did not break. You suspend the crown hours before rival packs arrive, based on a tailor's interpretation and testimony from men officially dead. Tavian Rusk leaned on his cane. Then restore us to the rolls and hear us alive. The 17 veterans stepped forward. One by one, they gave their names, ranks, wounds, and the commands they had heard. The archivist matched scars to old supply notes, pay fragments, and family petitions rejected after the retreat. The records had called them dead. Their bodies disagreed. The eldest counselor ordered the black stones removed. Orsella looked at Stellan. If the vote stops, your coronation remains suspended. The rival packs may withdraw recognition. Road, recognition. Reg de four. Recognition, reg de four, to welt. Reg de four. Then they will learn what kind of crown they were asked to recognize. You would risk civil war for incomplete truth? No, he said. I risk my inheritance because your version required everyone else to carry its cost. He turned to the guards. Queen Mother Orsella is removed from emergency medical and succession authority pending open tribunal. She remains under guarded residence, with full right to answer every charge. Not imprisoned without hearing. Not erased. Miren noticed that choice. Ursula did too. You think restraint makes you different from me? No, Stellan said. What I do after power harms, someone will decide that. The rival envoys were admitted before dawn. They saw the broken gate tooth, the horn registry, the tonic analysis, the prepared confinement petition, and the 4 pre-written voting grounds. They also saw Miren's repaired guild mark, its severed line still visible. The coronation did not proceed. Instead, the council issued 3 temporary rulings. The surviving shieldmen were restored to legal identity pending military tribunal. No royal medical treatment could be administered without recorded consent unless immediate physical danger was independently witnessed. And no guild standing could be severed by crown order without notice, hearing, and public correction. Miren listened without gratitude. Law written after harm did not return the years already taken. When Master Vale offered her the title of Royal Memory Tailor, she refused. I will not belong to the office that tried to make my work illegal. What do you require, he asked. An independent guild chamber, authority to preserve disputed garments, protection for apprentices who refuse destruction orders, my signature beneath every finding I make. The council granted it because the witnesses were still present. Miren made them read the grant aloud. Public repair required public language. 3 months later, Orsella's tribunal began. No cloth named her guilty. No spider wrote a confession. The case rested on orders, dosage records, sealed gates, prepared petitions, and the testimony of people her system had made difficult to hear. Stellan testified first. He did not call himself innocent. My signature burned the records, he said. My fear made Miren's accusation easier to believe. I was manipulated. I was also obeyed. The court entered both truths. His coronation remained delayed until the tribunal ended. Miren returned to the Velvet Tower, not as a servant, but as head of the Independent Witness Guild. The abandoned workrooms filled again with apprentices, learning that cloth could preserve contact without pretending to understand motive. One winter evening, Stellan came without guards. He carried no crown clasp. Across his arm lay a plain black coat with the left shoulder cut too narrowly. I need this altered, he said. Miren examined the seam. You can afford another tailor. I can. Then why come here? Because I no longer want a coat that makes me look unbroken. She looked at the scar above his collar. And what do you want it to do? Fit the body I have without asking someone else to disappear inside the work. It was not an apology. The apology had already begun in public records, suspended power, restored names, and testimony given against himself. Miren took the coat. I will alter it under guild contract. Your terms. My name beneath the work. Always. And no hidden stitches. Stellan met her eyes. None. She measured the damaged shoulder without touching it first. May I? Yes. Only then did she place the tape across the scar. Outside, moon spiders rested in the dark beams, motionless and unnecessary. The cloth had remembered enough. What came next would depend on what two people chose to do while fully awake.